All right, how is everyone doing? Thanks for tuning in to the Rich CELENZA Show. WTF are you talking about? I'm Rich CELENZA. So I want to kind of dive right into this today. The segment that I'm going to be calling this is called Stop Being a Jagoff. A lot of people who know me, I guess being from Chicago, we call a lot of people Jagoffs. I know a lot of New Yorkers say jerk off, and everybody has their own way of saying different things about certain people. But we usually say Jagoff, or at least I do. My father, a lot of my family members, especially if you're Italian, I guess you could say. But I think it's not even a nationality thing. I just think it's something a lot of us say from Chicago. But the reason I want to touch on this subject is, and I hope I don't offend a lot of people. Usually a lot of times I do, but I don't think a lot of times people realize how much of a Jagoff they really are in life and how they really have to learn to confront that. Now I know for the most part, no one is perfect. And I mean, I don't give a shit who you are. You may be great at certain things, but I could assure you, you are not great at everything, right? You may know a lot, but I could assure you know a lot less than you know more. And that goes with anything in life, right? I mean, there are people who could do a lot of amazing things and could do who are very intelligent and all these things. They are not great at everything. So, and I always said also, if you were, for the most part, and I don't care if you're a billionaire or not, and I don't care how successful you are or not, a lot of times, no matter who you are, you see or you have failed in many different things. And that's kind of where you learn from your past, or you've learned different things. It's because of your failures, not because you were always succeeding, right? Or you kept succeeding because you kept trying to learn. You tried to better yourself. All right, but in this case, what I'm saying is a lot of people's behavior around others, they're not acknowledging how big of a jagoff they really are. Especially in relationships. I talk about this again in my Mastering Self-Confidence program, about really taking a step outside yourself and really looking at your behavior. How do you really treat people? Are you somebody where people are kind of attracted to you, or are you somebody who's just reflecting off people? But let's take, for instance, this is kind of, I think what I want to do in this podcast is more for people that are in relationships, or maybe even for younger people, or it could be for all different types of people, but people that are you're in a position where you may or may not be in a rut, but you're just always acting a certain way. Now, you don't know if it's the people around you making you act this way, which that's an excuse, I believe, but you can just say, for instance, if you are in a shitty environment or you were born into one and there's no escaping it, especially if you're younger, I get it. Sometimes you're just born with asshole parents, right? Or you could be born with asshole siblings or cousins, whatever the case may be. You could be born in a horrific environment, and I get it. That sucks. That would make us all nuts. I've been in a lot of different situations in my life. I didn't like where I was living, and then other places I like living better, whatever the case may be. Boo-hoo. But if you're an adult, right, and you're miserable, but the thing is you're making others around you miserable, you're a jagoff, all right? And I have dealt with drug addicts and alcoholics, depression, mental illness, and I'm not talking just a few people. I've been surrounded by it for a majority of my life. So here's the deal, and that includes a lot of family members. I'm not going to start specifying which ones they are, but I've lived under the same roofs as them, which like a lot of other people, and I think what happens is, especially, and I'm going to say this, drug addicts are drug addicts. They have a disease. It's horrible. And same with alcoholism, right? And it's nothing against alcoholics or drug addicts, but a lot of times I think people with any type of problem, not just them, it could be anything. A lot of times they will depend on others to take care of them, which in some situations that has to be. I get it. But there's a lot of people that know what they're doing right and wrong, and they're still not willing to make the changes to better themselves or better their environment, is what I should say. And I've seen this a lot with alcoholism, where a lot of people become alcoholics. So let's just hypothetically say, and I was not in a relationship like this, so I can't say. I'm just using for an example, if I was married at the time and I had an alcoholic, spouse or whatever the case may be, which I did not. But if I see this amongst a lot of my family members and friends and things, they have somebody who's an alcoholic. And the thing is, the alcoholic kind of just destroys everything around them. And it's not just financially, because there's a lot of people who still have wealth that drink a lot. And there's a difference between drinking, to the point where you can drink every night, casual drinking, having fun. I'm talking about the people that put other people under a lot of stress. They're coming home intoxicated. They're stealing money. They're picking their kids up drunk, dropping them off, and that could be grandchildren as well. It could be whoever. You've got to fucking confront yourself and say, I am a Jagoff because, again, of my behavior. Just because a lot of times we're alcoholics or we have addictions, and I'm not saying, the closest thing I think I ever had to an addiction to a certain degree was gambling, and I still had the sense to say, hey, I'm getting in too deep. Now, I'm not saying everybody has that sense, but I definitely wasn't going to be going and stealing from my parents or lying to people because of my gambling addiction, and it hurt my relationship, I think, because I wanted to gamble all the time, right? Day and night. I like to go to Vegas, or I like to go to Atlantic City. We used to travel legally, illegal. I made good money too. Even I made a lot of money sometimes when I gambled, which was very interesting when I was booking and things. So gambling isn't always going to be, on the flip side of things, horrific. But I realized my emotional behavior, though, was pissing people off. Because when you're winning, no matter what, if you're a sore loser like I was, when you're winning, you're great. When you're losing, you're a Jagoff. Your attitude sucks. You're very impatient with everybody. If they don't do what you want to do a lot of times or go where you want to go, you're just like, go fuck yourself. Which again, if you want to do that, it's your right to do that. I mean, if you are in a relationship or you have kids or you're just in certain situations where people kind of depend on you, or you put yourself in that position where people depend on you, then you really got to get your head out of your ass, because instead of making everything about you, and if it doesn't go your way, making everyone miserable, you've got to understand there are other people's lives you're affecting, especially when, say, for instance, an alcoholic. And I'm just using them for example, because I think a lot of times people are alcoholics, but they still have a lot of common sense to say, man, my drinking, is it really affecting others? Like, what am I really like when I am intoxicated? Or what am I like when I'm buzzed? Or what is it like when I'm not getting drinks? And here's the thing. A lot of guys I know too, and women, they've gone to rehabs. Or I've known people that have gone to rehab. And then the whole family is supposed to gather around them, support them, and do all this shit. Well, here's the deal. Why is that their responsibility? I get that you want them to do that, and it's wonderful. But are you there for them right now? No, right? Are you fighting? If I lined up family members, a lot of them have all their own problems. Are you there for them as much as that you expect them to be there for you? So say you do go to rehab, a lot of times families, spouses, all these people gather behind, or they do an intervention, they get behind the person, and then they relapse, and then they expect all this support. What the fuck? What do you expect out of anybody after a while? And then all of a sudden, not even alcoholics, people, they become a victim of whatever situation, because not everyone's behind them. Not everyone supports them. It's because of their childhood or because of this situation. Again, there's billions of people out there with tons of problems. Just because you have a problem, you've got to address it on your own. I really believe that. I don't care what it is. I always say, as soon as you find out you don't need anyone else to make yourself complete is when you are. You've got to take a hard look in the mirror at who you are and what you are doing in your life. Good or bad, accept it. A lot of people are shitty at a lot of things. They could be shitty at being a parent. They could be shitty at being, if you're a child, you could be shitty to your parents. You could be a shitty cousin. You could be a shitty friend, whatever the case may be. But you need to address these things. And the only one who's going to fix that is you. Now, if you don't want to fix that, and I see a lot of people who don't care and that get pissed because others, again, aren't there to support them through their time of need, which they don't realize. They've been already dealing with a lot of these people's bullshit weeks, months, usually years and years and years. So by the time you kind of sometimes discover and say, you know what, I'm ready to, help, I need help now. Well, then go get it. That doesn't mean that everybody else has to circle around you all the time or be there at every moment of your life. And you could be like, well, I'm the one with the problem. Well, they don't have time a lot of times to have a problem. Especially I see a lot of spouses or married couples. One's an alcoholic, one isn't, or one's a drug addict, one isn't. One has problems, whatever. I don't care if it's cheating, one isn't. The other one doesn't have the fucking time to do, because if they did what you did, everything would be dysfunctional. So why put that on them? Step aside and say, listen, thank you for all the shit you've done for me. Thank you for supporting me and go I kind of get that I've been doing a lot of shitty things for a long period of time. I'm going to go get the help I need, right? I don't need to drag you down anymore. That's wonderful. I get that you've been here for me. You're obviously even still married anymore, even if you're divorced. You're helping raise my children. Or, whatever the case may be, you should be thanking them. But a lot of people I see that have problems, they're condemning the other person a lot of times because of what they did to them in the past or what they've been through with that person. Like, dude, or whoever, a woman, what the fuck is wrong with you? Accept who you are and start to learn to look at things through somebody else's eyes. Would you deal with you? I can assure you most people wouldn't. I know, and sometimes I'm very harsh. My mother says I'm brutal when I talk to people. But I've had a lot of friends, people that do a lot of shitty things, and I just can't take it after a while. I will tell them in their face, listen, you're a fucking Jagoff. I don't dig what you're doing. Good, bad, whatever it is. I don't dig it. And it could be things that maybe they think they're doing something good for someone. I just don't dig it. Now, I did a podcast on Stop Apologizing. I think as far as what I know, what's right and wrong, I know when I'm wrong, even when I'm doing it. I'm not that stupid. And I think people, I call it playing dumb all the time. They're pretending like they're not alcoholics, or they're pretending they're not drug addicts, or they're just pretending that they're not lying all the time when they are. It's kind of a game to them, and they don't realize what they're doing to other people, because I think the truth is they don't give a fuck. They're only out for themselves. And again, I know a lot of these things are disease driven, especially alcoholism. And I'm not, if you have problems, the last thing I ever want to do is hurt anyone. I only want people that have problems that want to address them, is to help them. But you have to understand, too, there comes a time in your life when others can't always do it for you or be there for you. They don't have the time. They have their own life, their own problems. But a lot of times when you get around a lot of these people who have a lot of problems, they don't care. It's all about them and their problem, and they want you to help them with their problem, but usually they don't. I believe it's a front. A lot of people that even go to rehab that I know relapse. And a lot of times they knew even when they were going to rehab or when they were going to counseling or they're doing certain things. And it could be gamblers as well. When I used to collect money for gamblers, I wrote about it in my first book, Sore Losers. That's why I really had to get out of the industry. I couldn't take it anymore because these guys were gambling and losing a lot, which was great because we're making money off them, which is, every casino and everyone who gambles understands, you make money off the juice, whatever. But these guys weren't taking their kids to the dentist. Instead, they're still worried about betting a game or expanding their credit limits. And I'm like, your kid needs a fucking root canal, it sounds like, and you're betting $500 a game, but you can't afford to take them to a dentist. Then they're working out payment plans. They're working a payment plan out with me so they could be covered, so they could keep gambling. And again, at the same time, they can't make a payment plan with a dentist for their child or their kids. I knew they weren't getting groceries, or I knew their kids weren't getting clothes, or, I knew even couples that weren't even, didn't have kids. Like this guy's portraying himself some way to a woman, like they're broke all the time when I know he's betting $1,000 to $2,000 a week. All this bullshit, which again, that's your right if you want to. But again, if you're going to be with somebody, you're going to lie to them, or you're going to manipulate people, or if you have kids, take on that responsibility, or at least try to balance it, is what I should say. And I think that's where it goes, where people just don't know how to balance certain things. Some are really good at it. Most are horrific. First, it starts off with 1 drink, then it's 2 drinks, then it's 5. Whatever the case be, same with gambling. First, you're just playing fantasy. Next thing you know, you're betting $50 or $100 a game. Before you know it, it's $500. Before you know it, you're bankrupt. It's excessive. You've got to learn to put the brakes on, recover. Just set kind of a budget if you're going to gamble, or even drinking, to say, hey, I am going to drink on weekends, but I'm going to limit myself. And maybe that's easy for me to say. I get it, because you're like, you don't have the problem, you don't have the disease, you don't have this, or you don't have mental illness, or you don't have that. I get all those things, right? And I'm talking about the people that know better. So don't think I am, there's a lot of people out there, and it could be even, you see celebrities all the time that are extremely wealthy. You see athletes, you see businessmen, CEOs, CFOs. I can assure you a lot have problems, but a lot of them know better. They don't care, which again is fine. But don't be pissed, I always said, when people tell you to go fuck yourself, because I think that's what a lot of people need to do to those people. Because what also happens, I think, with a lot of people in the position of power or financial power, and it could be celebrity, they're celebrities or whatever, really no one stands up to them to say, hey, this is ridiculous. I don't like the way you behave. And that can go even for a lot of people. I've known judges that I didn't like the way they behave towards their wives because I think the way they behave. I've seen politicians the way they behave. I'm like, you really, just for the sake of having some common courtesy, learn to respect people the way you want to be respected, because I see so many people who demand respect but really respect no one. And they a lot of times overvalue their opinions and dismiss everyone else's, right? I'm sure you see that all the time. Like, they're always the one who has to have the final say, or the ones who, my word is law and all those type of things. Which, if you're in a household like that and that's the way it's ran, good for you. But I'm just saying, me personally, I don't stand for shit like that. Who knows? Maybe that's why I've always been kind of nuts that I just say it the way it is. But that's just who I am. But now let's throw out all that. Let's forget about that. Say you're just an average Joe, or you're just a person who's actually successful. Let's just say, either way, you're not an alcoholic, drug addict, you don't have mental illness, you don't have any of these things, but you're just still an asshole, right? Just, how do I say this without becoming very offensive? I'm trying to think. I think the word is arrogant, obviously, which there is a fine line between, I really believe, being confident, because the person who's truly confident, when he walks in a room, he already knows who he is. He's very comfortable in his own skin. Not much you can do or say to him is going to rattle him, right? That's, I believe, the type of person you really want to aim to be. And I'm not here to tell you who you should be. So I'm just saying, the ones that really are the ones that kick ass are the ones you already know kick ass just by the way they walk, talk, act. If, again, you're one of those dudes, back to the Jagoff, who's always got to be shit talking, always trying to, tell people about all the things you've accomplished or all you've done, show people how wealthy you are. And that can even be on social media. That could be personal. It could be whatever. That dude, right? And then you kind of take a lot of that and hold it over people's heads too. Which, again, I think you're being a Jagoff, just saying. Just really learn to just be a cool person and understand other people's opinions and values. And I think, especially now in the political scheme of things, everybody is so judgmental. Everybody wants to condemn somebody if they don't believe in what they believe in, or make the other person feel like they're stupid, or just all these different things. What are you doing that for? Really, if you look at your actions, are all your actions a lot of times benefiting others or you? I mean, really, when it comes down to it, sure, I have a lot of disagreements with my friends at different times regarding many different things. But the way I say what I'm going to say sometimes, is it hurtful? Is it to make them look stupid? Or is it to make me look smarter? Or is it to start an argument? All these different things, you really got to start analyzing, I think, especially as we get older, in my opinion. Because I think also, if you have kids, and eventually you have grandkids and all them, you really are kind of the rock, I think. And a lot of people, you don't realize how you look up to grandparents, or you even look, if you're a parent or any of these positions of power, how people really look at you and how they take you and how they really do respect you. And I think sometimes I think about this too. Behind closed doors, what are a lot of people saying about me? Now, again, you can never control that, and I'm not saying even to necessarily give a shit, because like I always say, if you're poor, they're going to talk shit. If you're wealthy, they're going to talk shit. But are you someone they know they can trust, or someone that, they believe in, or that they could get behind? Or if you are the type of person where they need advice, they can come to you, or you're the type of guy who they kind of shun, or really doesn't really, you can kind of see people never invite you out to dinner, or they never want to be around you, or they're just not comfortable around you. And a lot of times I think this happens in work environments too. A lot of times people in front of your face treat you a certain way. You all work together. But then behind closed doors, I'm not saying there's cliques or whatever, but you kind of see yourself on the out. Now, that could be a good thing or a bad thing. I'm not saying that. I don't know what's going on in your workplace or amongst your friends or everything. But sometimes, again, looking at your behavior, is it very respectful? And I really go back to parents. I look at a lot of people and how they treat their parents. And if they treat them with a lot of respect, I really have a ton of respect for them. But if they're the type of people that I could tell, like, don't give a shit about their parents, that doesn't make them bad people. I don't know what they went through. But it seems to me that a lot of people that really, especially as their parents are getting older, they have the patience to talk to them. They love being with them. They call them on the phone. They text them. Even on social media. You see all these things. And I think, just for me, I find those people, and I don't care if they're wealthy, poor, whatever, they just seem to love their parents. I just seem to trust them. I gravitate more towards them type of people. Because I think when it comes down to it, core values a lot of times, and I always wanted to be a lot different than my dad, and then I realized later in life how similar I was to him, which was quite interesting. And as I got older, I was losing patience because I clashed with my father because we have very strong personalities, and some things we really believe a lot alike, and then other things we clash, just like I was saying. That same goes for my mother. But I try to talk to my mother every day. I try to talk to my dad whenever I can, and so I probably call him. He calls me about every other day on the average, sometimes every day if I'm traveling. It just depends. Sometimes he gets tired. But I do want my parents to know I'm always there for them. Same with my kids. I know my kids are busy. Now my kids are 21 and 20, so that's a whole different ballgame, which is wonderful. But if hopefully anyone knows anything about me, they're going to know that I'm not here to fuck around. And I also try to, I'm not going to say I accommodate everybody, because I do not. But the way I feel about a lot of things, you'll understand exactly the way I feel or how I come across. So you're not going to get the guy who's going to be like, oh, that doesn't faze me. Oh, that doesn't bother me. And then 6 months down the road, I'm going to blow up and start screaming at you. No, if I don't like something, and I'm not going to be super aggressive towards somebody and say, I don't like this, we're not doing that. Oh, I don't like to eat dinner there. No, I'm actually easy breezy, I think, for the most part, regarding what a lot of people like to do. But it's more about behavior. If I don't like some things you're doing to others that I know about it, I'm going to have a problem and confront you with it. If you're saying shit about a lot of people that I don't like, I'm going to confront you on that. Same with me. Sometimes I'll get nuts and say something about my friends, and they'll be like, hey, I think you hurt his feelings. I'd be like, oh shit, you're right, I probably did. Or I may post a comment that they said, hey, that was uncool. I know it was meant for a joke, but other people may not are looking at that differently. I'm like, oh shit, let me delete that. You're right. I make mistakes all the time. And that's what I'm trying to kind of get across here too, is being a Jagoff, a lot of times you've got to sometimes acknowledge that, again, you make mistakes. You need to learn how to apologize. Even though sometimes we may not always feel like we're wrong. But I think sometimes when it comes to certain things, especially in relationships, if it really did hurt the other person a lot, you may still be like, I still think what I did was kind of right. But it seems to really be hurting the other person. Is it really worth the beef, I call it? There's a lot of beefs or arguments out there. Are they worth it? At the end of the day, what is worth it, what isn't? That's kind of what life comes down to. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's like, if I eat this certain meal, what benefit is it? Is it making me happy because I like this meal? Am I eating it for nutritional value? Whatever it is. Is it worth it? Is this relationship worth it at the end of the day? Me buying this car, is it really worth the value? Right? I don't care if it's a sports car. I don't care if it's a shitty car. If you're buying a car for miles, or if you're buying a car that you want to look great in, is it really worth it to you at the end of the day? And is it going to be worth it in the long term? Right? If you're going to keep eating shitty food and then you start to feel shitty, you already knew that. You knew the value of that was going to turn out shitty, right? A lot of times, if you keep eating good food, right, you probably know you're going to start getting healthier most likely. That, the value in that. And I think, again, when we're playing stupid or dumb, we do the same thing treating people a certain way. Are we treating this person consistently right? Right? And that doesn't mean bending over backwards. That just means, are we respectful? And do we demand them to, respect you to a certain degree? Is it balanced? What's the value of this? Because I think a lot of times who gives a shit the way it turns out? Let's just keep kind of going the way we're going and it'll all sort itself out. Well, that usually never works. Because shitty things just keep accumulating and becoming more and more shitty. Nobody nips it in the bud, right? And it's easy to go shitty. Let's call it for it. It's easy to buy shit food. It's easy not to work out. It's easy not to do anything, right? It's a lot harder to get up earlier, work harder, eat, try to stay healthy or fit. Those are things that are going to take a lot more So those are things you really got to realize. And when things go sour on you again, right? A lot of people I know that end up miserable a lot of times, they want to blame others for the position they're in, which is the worst thing you can ever do. I don't want to hear that shit if you're an adult in America anymore, including myself. I don't feel sorry for anyone. If you have physical disabilities, that's unbelievable. That's a whole different thing. Again, even mentally, that's different. I'm talking about average people out there that are just lazy, which is fine. If you're lazy, you got overweight because you didn't want to exercise, or you're lazy, you ate a lot of shit food, or you just don't want to, and then in a year, 2, 3 years, I'm going to blame my parents for what they did to me in the past, or I'm going to blame my spouse because she cooks fattening food, or I'm going to blame my job because I don't make enough money because I could never join a gym. All this different bullshit, stop doing it. Stop, please. Just please stop. So I'm going to wrap this one up. If you ever get a chance, check out my Mastering Self-Confidence program. It's actually a blueprint to help men find the woman or women of their dreams. I get into a lot of this because a lot of times men just don't want to acknowledge they're the problem regarding finding women. They don't know how to put themselves in the right place, right time. They don't know how to talk to women. Most of them are very lazy. They're more interested in porn, or they're more interested in their phone, or they're more interested in a video game, even sports, even though I love sports, but you just gotta kind of weigh it out. They're more obsessed with themselves and not really what others are doing or actually being in a relationship. They kind of just want it to be all about them, which very seldom works. Even if you've been in relationships or divorces, you got to realize if you're going to be around beautiful women or women, and you're going to be in relationships, there's a balance. And if you don't have that balance, most likely you're not going to become successful. You could bullshit your way through it. There's no question about that for long periods of time. But usually it ends up when the hammer comes down, it doesn't work out for you, most likely. And I'm not going to say I'm some genius on that, but I've been through a lot in my life. So I think I have a lot of advice regarding that. I also have this podcast that you're listening to. I also have a YouTube channel, just Rich CELENZA. I get into, and I have a Facebook page. I get into a lot of the things regarding fashion, fitness, hygiene, relationship advice, and things in that nature. It seems like when I do my podcast, I'm a lot more harsh, I guess you could say, than I am on YouTube or on Facebook. Or I'm actually somebody who always likes goofing around and laughing, but it seems like when I get on these podcasts, these solo rants, I guess you could call them, I come off very aggressive and I guess to a certain degree like a Jagoff myself, but hopefully I'm not a Jagoff trying to make you think I'm like arrogant or any of these things. I just want to be kind of a no-nonsense to tell you, if you are interested in making certain changes to benefit your life, I definitely can, help you do that, or just talk about that and kind of call you out on that, because I think a lot of the problems we have is because people don't call us out on it. And then if they do call us out on it, we're kind of assholes ourselves to say, what are you talking about? Who do you think you're talking to? Look at your own problems. Don't worry about mine. But the truth is, a lot of us do have a lot of problems. And that doesn't always mean, like, again, alcohol, drugs, or anything. It could be behavior. It could just be you're in a bad mood a lot of times. You don't know why. Or, if you're introverted, God bless. I find myself being actually on both sides. I'm very extroverted when I'm around a lot of people. And then when I'm by myself, obviously, I'm very introverted. But I do both for long periods of time, which is interesting. But I'm usually by myself 75, 80% of the time because I'm traveling a lot for work. So I go travel, and then I'm around a bunch of people. Then I travel by myself, So, yeah, I got that going on as well. So if you want to check out YouTube or Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn, any of those. I love helping people, I think, more than ever. That's really what I kind of think I was brought down to this earth for. But again, with sometimes the way I talk and the way I act can turn people off. I get it. I'm definitely not for everyone. I'm probably not for most. But I can only be who I am. So, alrighty. Well, thanks again for listening to the Rich CELENZA Show. WTF are you talking about? And if you're traveling, safe travels. If you're in your car, drive safe. Oh yeah, here's something. I'm going to always try to... If you're in bad weather, because I had to go to the Midwest last week. I ended up having to go to Nebraska, Omaha. Actually, I went Kansas City, Omaha, South Dakota, North Dakota. It was freezing. But I learned this once in a snowstorm in Jersey. I got caught. If you guys remember, or girls, carry a hammer in your trunk. I was actually in a rental car. because a hammer could save your life many times. And I don't mean that from protecting yourself, which you could do that as well. But if you get caught in an ice storm, or even snowstorm or whatever, and you're a lot of times when cars get stuck, they get stuck on ice. The wheels are spinning. If you have a hammer, you can crack the ice and pull it, right, in any situation. Or if any situation comes up, you can usually use a hammer to do that. Because I once got stoned in Jersey. We came out, there was such a big blizzard that we couldn't even see where our cars were. So we got all the snow off our cars, but it rained first. It was an ice storm, then it snowed, then it rained. So it was just unbelievable. A dude came out with a hammer, a young Latin guy, a little Mexican guy, and he goes, "Where are you from?" I said, "I'm from Florida." He goes, "Oh, you don't know cold weather," but I was from Chicago. I said, "Well, I'm originally from Chicago. I'm kind of used to cold weather. I travel a lot." He's like, "Hold on." He went and got a hammer. Nobody was getting out because everybody kept trying to pull out of their spots in their wheels. He got on his hands and knees and was banging the hammer on the reverse side and breaking up all the ice and dragging it, like pulling it. He pulled out. I just backed up and took off. It was unbelievable. And I traveled through Canada. I've been to Alaska. So, like, if you're in cold climates, put that hammer in your car. A jack won't do it, I don't think. I mean, you may be able to stick that jack in it. Like, you may have, if that's a last resort, maybe start picking it with the ice with that. But if you have a hammer, man, it's fast and it's coming down hard. So don't know why I told you about that, but like I said, I always try to help people. But all right, well, take care, and I wish you nothing but the best.